Oh, there we went. Let's see how I can do here. Trying to avoid screens in my eyes so I can retain my vision while I share some visions. I might have to flip that around. Okay, so I might just flip his around. Israel. Alright, so I'm glad I caught that white butterfly flying around amidst the chaos being produced through the sound of that weed whacker. It will tie into the lyrics that I've just recently wrote. I'm not done, they're just kind of rough, and I've got like a vague melody in my head and some rhythms that kind of build tension and release as the song builds up and goes into the chorus. It's not fully created yet, but that's okay because I like the raw and authenticity of it. It's formatted as a letter to Boo, me, a love letter to me, a reminder. The subtitle is Archon Ascension. Got 31 likes here so far. I'd like to see people smashing that screen. If you like artists, vlogging, practicing their art, whatever it may be, I do that and more here on this channel. This is Northern Light on TikTok, aka Paul Harris Light Striker on YouTube. If you see me anywhere else, this content has been cut, copied, and redistributed without my personal permission. A means to acquiesce what doesn't belong to some, and also simultaneously act as advocates for the so-called archons, who are just another part of the divine. And the reason why this matters with the lyrics, I will detail. But first, it is the 1300th hour, 58th minute, Friday, August 7th, 2026. It is currently 27 degrees Celsius up here in northern Canada. It's a warm one, but we do have cool winds often that help balance things out, especially during the early hours in the morning, around twilight, or is twilight only before night? I'm not certain if it's before and after, but I do know that twilight technically is a section of ocean that sparkles and glimmers as the moon arises. So the twilight zone is actually that, but we've come to call the time between night and day twilight. So hey. AI summary says, sharing a new song, Archon Ascension, about a love letter. Thank you, AI. That is perfect assistance right there. I couldn't ask for a better coworker. So, allowing yourself to remain in flight mode in your power, just like that white butterfly did amidst the chaos of the lawnmower, destroying parts of its food and whatnot. It knows that the world is abundant, and so it doesn't let the little bit of destruction dim its will to fly. And so hopefully I can encourage others to stay high, to elevate beyond the need to remain in conflict. Sure, acknowledge it, sit with it, and transmute it and release it. But I recommend not holding on to it. As far as I understand, if you do, that will be what has you and Boo reincarnate through and through. So if your desire is to completely escape the earth realm, just know that the front door is always open. There's no secret to it. You have to rise above and release. Even when the media is propagandizing division between all of us, I think it's fine to acknowledge what it is for what it is and maybe discuss it in a way that helps others realize that they don't have to be stuck in it. They don't have to attach to it. They don't have to hold on till the dear end, all just to have to come back here because their heart did not weigh lighter than a feather. For if you're holding on to hate and suffering, you will be anchored into this realm. It's not to say that you can't come back here and have fun in this realm. There are many aspects to this dualistic universe, be it Earth realm or any other realm. They're all dualistic to some variance of the spectrum. I think Earth realm compared to the others, and maybe I'm biased, but considering the suffrage and the strife that I've gone through in my life, it should speak volumes for others and encourage them to also release, because I do acknowledge all of what this is, and I see that yes, despite whether you're gang stalked and targeted, or bounty hunters are sent after you, or groups of women are constantly surveillancing you, claiming that they're doing it for the collective good of their body of power, or some other reason. Once you realize what it is and how this reality deeply entrenches you and anchors you, you can then move into your own free will decision of whether you choose to remain in those conflictive energies and thus having you stuck here, or you can rise above by releasing what everybody's trying to covet and instill into you, and then turn around and scapegoat entities or beings like the archons, without realizing that the archons are a part of the same source that we all are, and so they too deserve love. They are only following the divine plan and fate. They do not have free will to the same level and extent that humans do. And you might be wondering, well, how does free will operate if we have fate and soul contracts and divine plans to follow? Well, there is a spectrum of variance in the direction of which we can take. Part of it operates from the variable factor of opportunity costs. So I could have chosen to stay off stream, knowing that there are many monitoring me and trying to suppress me for a variety of reasons. One is they're scared of my opinions, they're scared of my process, they're scared of my power. And I want to encourage especially those who fall into that category or those categories to not fear me, to merely sit and listen and maybe use this as an opportunity to recondition your reactions and responses to help you elevate, to give you the opportunity to not fall by the wayside and feel like you need to make this an us and them issue. For me, simply stating my opinions on things like I did in a previous stream, which once I did, that's when my stream was flagged and I was given the time limit. And it was all for falsities too. Like, they're trying to say that I was being provocative because I had my nipples out, but I wasn't. I wasn't trying to be sexual at all. I was just being in my avatar. I'm not being crude. I'm not trying to titillate anybody. I'm just being me. And as far as I can see, when you go to the sea or the beach for that matter, within your eyes reach, you can see nipples all over the beach. And I should remind everyone that in Canada, as of like, I think it was the year 1997, they ruled that women are legally permitted to walk around topless as long as they're not in a store or something that says you have to have a shirt on. But in public, they can. I see why they don't, though, because just look at how much more competitive our race has gotten since women started trending, what are they called? Leggings? You know, those really tight-fitting pants. So imagine if they had their nipples out when we're a society who is conditioned to cover the nipple. Of course, that's going to raise the competitive levels, not just in the men, but in the women as well. And that's where women fall by the folly most often, is by assuming they're not just as much like the men as the men are. We're all warlike and territorial with the capacity for the opposite, regardless of our gender. The sooner we realize that we're more similar than not, the sooner that we can disseminate the division between us and perhaps help Earth realm move into its next level of ascension, where we work with it rather than against it, like how the mainstream matrix is designed to keep us disconnected from ourselves, from the planet, and from each other. I'm not saying we shouldn't work. I think we should still contribute. I just acknowledge that there's a better way, one where we can flow in harmony with the planet and each other and pave the way so that humans don't have to be born into a cage where they're constantly pushed to the point of burnout and anger and chained to our lower half. Like, I really had hope when feminism rose up that they would help balance it out, and maybe they still will. But right now, they're just fighting for superiority. It's apparent, it's evident. I was watching a news broadcast on CTV, and I seen a guest, I think her name is Chantal Kreviazik. I'll have to re-research that. But you could tell that the newscast was trying to recruit her into the conflict between men and women by specifically asking her, what tips do you have for the upcoming female artist? And then Chantal Kreviazik, and I'm grateful for her. What I noticed is she did not jump into that rally. Instead, she phrased her response in a way that everybody, regardless of the gender of their body, could benefit from. And she commented about just looking ahead into the future and seeing how you feel about the work you're currently creating. Then consider where it will take you. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what she said, but I know the meaning and how it felt. And it gave me hope for women, that women can perhaps work along and unite with men rather than continuing to perpetuate the divide and make it an us and them thing, which is what the powers that be rely on in order to keep us controlled. Because if men and women were to work together on the same page in peace and harmony, And when we need to, pull out our shadow side to deal with the forces that be, as they shall come and present to all of thee. We would be a force to be reckoned with, and then you and me and all of us could act from unity instead of perpetuating the divide and pointing the finger. So where my stream got cut off, am I still here? Yeah, I'm still here. When my stream got cut off the other day, I was talking about how I don't think it's wise to put an imbalanced woman in a position of leadership for any country. And I was specifying that comment about America in how Trump right now is, he's operating the business mechanics of it all and metaphorically steering the ship away from the iceberg. He's doing what he needs to do so that the corporation of America, and every country is a corporation, just please do your research. He's setting it up so that whoever takes the reins can continue steering away from the iceberg. But if you allow anyone of imbalance, regardless of their gender, if you allow any distorted individual to take the reins, especially from a prideful perspective that perpetuates the divide between the genders, then they're going to take all that work that Trump's been putting in, ruin it, and steer it right back into the iceberg. And I'm not saying anything personally against, let's say, Kamala, if she is to take over the reins. But if she's to do the typical oppositional act and smite the previous leader by reversing their plans and their progress, then exactly what will happen is America will be no more. And I don't hate America. There's some Americans from your country, who participated in gang stalking operations against me. And so I have reason to be upset with some people from your country, but I acknowledge that it's not everyone from your country, and so I refuse to hate an entire country based on the maladaptive actions of some. And therefore, where within that, I do not want to see the end of America. But if you put someone up who's distorted and imbalanced into the position of leadership where they have access to red buttons that control certain war hammers, let's call them, then I don't see y'all lasting very much longer. And I see the same fate for Canada if they continue allowing the Liberal Party to push its nonsense where they're trying to strip away our freedom of speech. And I see the timeline unfolding from those actions. For example, one area where they want to punish us is for claiming that brown people are bad drivers. And I don't know whether they are or not, but according to the statistics and considering the amount of accidents caused when they're operating big transport trucks, the big 18-wheelers, it seems like they might not be the best drivers in Canada. And I understand because I talked to some of the immigrants, and some of them, I don't know if this is true for all of them, but they told me that where they come from, people don't really drive vehicles. And so to put them in the terrain of Canada and expect them to drive as well as a Canadian-born citizen throughout all seasons, all two of them, no, depends where you are. Sometimes it feels like we only have 2 seasons up here. But if you're to put them into like a higher level difficulty terrain and expect them to operate the big rectangles that are the 18-wheel transport trucks and not experience any issues, and especially considering that all humans learn from mistakes, it seems ridiculous to not expect them to make mistakes as well. And so I'm not hating on brown people for being quote unquote bad drivers, but if the statistics say that they are, and they've proven that they are, then restating a statistic is most certainly not delivering a slate. You're not hating on them. And that's part of the, I forget which bill exactly it is, but one of them detailing what they're pushing with their legal codes, and there's a difference between law and legal codes. What they're pushing is you can't say things against brown people for being bad drivers, even if they are. And I'm not saying whether they are or aren't, but I'm suggesting people go look at the statistics. And if you recite the statistics and you do so from a neutral and unbiased standpoint, I don't think that violates any laws. And furthermore, what I see happening with the brown people is you've got the feminazi entity known as feminism doing what it's been doing, and that's absorbing all the minority groups, if you will. I had to think there for a sec because it seems like there's more immigrants here than anyone. So do we really call them a minority group? I'm not sure, but what I've seen feminism do, which I used to think I was a feminist, I used to believe that they were looking for equality, and maybe some in those groups are, but it seems like most are just seeking superiority. And in one of the ways they're trying to accomplish just that is by absorbing all the disadvantaged groups and putting on the face of altruism, all just to augment their reach and their power. They become corrupted by the same power that they once complained the men being corrupted by. And I'm not here to hate, I'm here to discuss and inspire and invigorate some actualizations of the truth, hoping that people can take that away and work it through themselves day and day. I'm not here to shame, but in talking about truth, some people might feel like I'm trying to shame them, but I'm not. I'm just speaking on the truth and working towards suggesting ways that we can work with the truth and rise above for all of us. Not one side nor the other, all. Even encompassing the so-called powers that be, even the archons, even all universal entities, whatever we all may be. But we do live in a dualistic universe, so you have to expect the ebb and flow of this teeter-tottering life that goes up and down, around and around, again and again and again and again. I don't think we'll ever escape that, but we do have control over which side we tip to in our lifetime. And we can influence that with the words we speak, with the actions and habits we take. You'll notice that the average easy to react feminazi is often overweight, over promiscuous, non-authentic, and just trapped in the illusion that society purported down their throats from their magazines, their television shows. And I'm not trying to blame any of those vehicles, but it's often that women are hardest on women and are most insecure about themselves and have the most difficult time actually embracing themselves. And so when I can see someone like Chantal Kreviazuk get up on a CTV News broadcast and not jump onto the us and them rally that they were trying to recruit her into, and give a neutral response to the question, and more so framing it in a way that everyone can benefit. And I see some other women exuding the same sort of balance in their energy and not perpetuating the divide, not purporting it, not augmenting it. And I'm hoping that others can do that too. And I think one of the ways that women can help themselves be free from the pull to those lines of division is to start working toward truly embracing themselves on all levels, with and without the makeup, with and without attaching to divisive plot devices. That's basically what they are, and I know they help perpetuate the dualistic energies between us all. So on some level they are needed, but if the feminists and the balanced feminists, not the feminazis, not the ones solely seeking superiority and dominancy and to avoid accountability, But the true women, the true high priestesses, if we can get more of them in alignment with that frequency or encourage them into that direction, then I see us having a better chance at moving forward together as a race, as opposed to constantly being divided and, oh, men are better, women are better. You all sound like the fucking peanut gallery, and I'm sick of it. But a few ways that women could do that is by looking in the mirror and giving themselves neutral to positive feedback before putting the makeup on. That's a key element there. You have to acknowledge that your body is beautiful regardless of if you don't have the illusion on, or if you're not looking like whoever is famous, or whatever people have been conditioned to believe that was the beauty standard for anyone. Furthermore, when you rid yourself of the distortion that comes from consistent cosmetic applications and hair dye as well, along with toxic foods, toxic programming, chemtrails from the sky, which we don't have much decision over, right? But we could talk about it and influence change with that. That's where our power is. And you can also use certain herbs and foods to help rid your body of the poisons and pollutants that come from the airs and the waters that have been tainted by the forces that be behind the scenes, who are just seeking to use us basically as their like human farm experiment. And I'm not trying to drive everyone to go against them. I'm also trying to wake up those individuals. And though I acknowledge that, much like in X-Men 97 Season 2, some people are destined to be the antagonist. So I'm not trying to shame them, but perhaps we could teeter the balance of duality in our reality by encouraging the forces that be to give us a period of time where we're not so inundated in this robotic system that's doing no one nor the planet any good. It's just distorting everybody, amplifying our aggressive levels, and dividing everybody from everybody, including their own self. Which, moving into another aspect that could help women, and anyone for that matter, is to be with yourself. Yes, continue socializing. We are social creatures. Women seem to have favor over being included in those social activities. For society has, and this is a tangent, for society has been conditioned to believe that if a man doesn't possess money, then a man should not be invited anywhere. Even if that man was born neurodiverse and there were inheritance thefts done against him since before his birth, and gang stalking operations were utilized to destabilize him, despite having garnered more education and work experience than the average workaday person. And I'm talking about in the first 5 to 10 years of their work cycle. I know I've been underemployed for a little while here, but there are events that pushed me there, which may have been done so by the hands of fate. Maybe I was supposed to spend all this time alone so that I could help clear my channels and deliver messages without distortion to the best of my effort and ability. But considering I'm human, I too have a propensity to ebb and flow between the yin and the yang energies of our planet. Not that either is better than the other. Even positive energy, if it's done so or emitted through distortion, it can provoke the opposite. So I'm not knocking on the energies either. I'm not knocking on any sort of divisive plot, as in division, any sort of divisive plot device. So tune in, tune out, take a look around at the clouds and the trees. Tune in, tune out, breathe in, Breathe out. Remember we're all a part of this dream. Remember we're all a part of this dream. That's not the lyrics that I wrote. I'm just trying to recall the lyrics to a Funeral for a Friend song. The melody's pretty nice. It's from their acoustic album. So what are other ways people, and specifically imbalanced women, could take in order to correct and clear up the distortions? Well, you could get away from Wi-Fi signals. Like, I'm at the edge of where mine reaches, so I'm pretty much not as influenced by it, and I'm more so influenced by the frequencies of nature out here, by the wind, the air, the land, the trees, the bugs, and the birds, and all the animals in between. And I can sense right now that some especially distorted female with heavy parasitic infestations and who is hung up on superiority complexes is feeling like I'm attacking them by suggesting positive ways in which they can clear their energy and act in alignment with their higher nature, which I understand not all of us are contracted to do here, so I gotta give some space for that, I suppose. But I'm just trying to let you know that, because that's often what happens, especially through the media outlet stations, is they'll take little sound bites or clips of what people have said in order to frame it in a way that will trigger the population into feeling a certain way to whoever's broadcasting. Oh, what the hell was that? Oh, it's just a grasshopper. I thought it was one of the hornets. I don't want to get stung right now. He hopped right on me. And so, for example, with my experience being gang stalked by multiple groups from here, multiple groups from near, multiple groups from afar, for reasons that extend beyond the multiple inheritance thefts that have been done against me, there are some who are trying to frame me as not being a leader, not realizing that I don't need anyone to call me a leader. I acknowledge who I am, and in accepting and embracing who I am and choosing to get up again and again and continue growing, continue developing, taking fault where it's mine, accepting accountability, and moving forward through truth and transparency, regardless of whether or not I was able to have the dog I was dog sitting walk in alignment with me being the leader, is not a means to dismiss my leadership abilities. For the record, I'm new to dogs. That dog, again, is not mine. I barely get to see her, and I do have ideas on how to get her to walk better where she acknowledges me as the leader. But I was just so happy that she was there and willing and waiting for my call to leave the house and take a walk. So much so that I didn't feel the need to operantly condition her to my will for that time and being. For I acknowledged her as my equal and my partner, in that if anyone were to come and attack us, we would both be there to neutralize the threat to the best of our ability without a second notice. But next time I have her, and if I were to have her more often, I would take my time and get her to learn how to walk slowly. But she's just excited because my sister, and I'm not trying to throw hate on my sister, but she's treating her shepherd like it's an indoor dog. She's not taking her for walks. Like, she still hasn't trained her to take her time when you're leashing her up and getting her out of the house. And she's had more than a year to do so. But my sister, like the average toxic feminazi, has been conditioned into believing that all you got to do is order people around with your voice and they should comply. So in her adopting a shepherd, I thought that she was going to learn that, well, you got to put action with those words. But it's clear that the excessive work hours my sister takes on, which she shouldn't be doing because she has a pacemaker, but she's bought into the programming of society that you got to up, work, home, TV, bed, and you're only as valuable as the amount in your bank account. So she seems to believe that all she's got to do is show up to work and provide shelter, as well as food, and the dog should comply to her every order, but that's not how it works. And if you have a female who is imbalanced in a position of leadership over a country, the same effect is going to ensue, where they're going to think, because they say given you a universally whatever income, a basic universal income or whatever it might be, they're going to think, okay, that should be enough to have them comply with our orders. You know, I showed up here and I'm here every week, day in and day out, and I've given them all this, so they should comply. But no, just like the German Shepherd, you have to take time and work with them. And that's the best way to train any animal, whether it's a human animal or a dog. You've got to spend time with them. Of course, like a dog who's kept inside all the fucking time and never gets to go anywhere is going to be too excited to take their time when you're trying to take them for a walk. Like, think of how you would feel if you're constantly caged up, yelled at, fed the same fucking food every day. And then all of a sudden you have this beautifully hearted man willing and ready to take you out for a nice long walk and then share his good food with you instead of that dry dog food. Just think about how fucking happy you would feel. Think about how much more a part of the team you would feel. And I think when you're leading people, that's important. You got to make people feel like they're a part of the team. And I think that if any woman was to take leadership in America, not only should they keep the boat steering away from the iceberg, which Captain Trump has set you all on course for, but maybe she can bring a balance to this work week issue. Instead of encouraging people to burn out and quote unquote work hard, how about we hit this with wisdom? How about we work with the seasons, with the earth? We flow in the same semblance that the other animals do, where in the wintertime it's more about rest. And throughout the warmer months, it's more about productivity. But there's a balance, there's an ebb and a flow. There's not, oh, you gotta be here by 8 a.m. every day or you're fucking fired, bitch. No, we need to do away with that nonsense. And a quick side note about the ICE operations. I'm going to give you an unbiased perspective coming from Canada here. I see what the intent was going into that, and my heart goes out to everybody suffering. But in all fairness, I think the intent was to balance out job access for people who were born in America. If you legally immigrated there, by all means, you got your seat. You deserve to be there. If you got in there illegally, well, you knew you were committing a crime in the process, and I'm not trying to justify any police brutality against anyone. I wholeheartedly stand against that, and I see civil war erupting if there isn't a balance put throughout the forces that be. But that's a tangent for now. So I think the intent with ICE was to reserve the job privileges of everybody. And so I have a suggestion to help balance this out, and maybe this could take some of the heat off the president for doing what he believed would help the American people, the organic American people, the ones who were born there. And I'm not talking about the difference between colonialists and indigenous people. I'm talking about the people who have had families there for generations, okay? Maybe I'll get on colonialization and so forth another time. So there are topics I could touch on there, but let's look at the here and now. So here and now, ICE has been active for as long as it has. What I suggest is a temporary pause, and we'll make this a gamble of sorts. We'll leave it out. Now that you've evicted X amount of illegal migrants, why don't you leave whoever's there, and encourage the Americans to take their jobs, not to take it away from hardworking immigrants, but to go there and contend on the same level, because you have the illegal immigrants out contending the others. And I'm not trying to suggest that we work harder, but we should work smarter, and we should see who's willing to show up and put in the effort, and which bosses are willing to go with the flow and give people some leniency. For example, say if they're sick, like with some jobs, you're only allowed 2 or 3 sick days out of an entire fucking year. What the fuck? You know? God, that pisses me off. Oh, I better only get sick 2 or 3 times or that's it for me, boss. Yep. Craziness. And remind everybody that every half an hour it's a good idea to get up, move around. That's another thing too. If you're feeling any sort of imbalance, you might be sitting too much. If you're having heart issues, maybe you could work on your calves because that's your second heart. You know, just do some plies or whatever. Get in your body and move it, and then get in your mind and release any sort of notion that you need to divide. But just concluding, I think, you know, maybe there could be some experimentation done with the ICE program. Maybe they could back off and just see who really wants the jobs more, because if it is the immigrants, then what's the point in telling them that they can't, right? And forcing them to not do it. And I'm not trying to knock the organic Americans, let's call them. I understand. Merit doesn't always matter. You can work your butt off in school and with all these rinky-dink Mickey Mouse jobs, and it still doesn't seem to get you anywhere unless you're born on the privileged side of the fence or into like some Masonic family. And that's ridiculous. I think we should value merit. And I'm not trying to say do away with gatekeeping altogether, but like look at the average American-born male and or Canadian-born male who succeeds in their positions of privilege longer than a decade. They're usually fat as fuck, unhealthy as fuck, inside and out. They're polluting the people around them. They force degradation. They force declination. That's what they influence. And a lot of them are programmed to think that all they got to do is up, work, home, TV, bed, get the resources, get the women, and that makes them better some way, somehow. But the average of them are completely unoriginal, completely distorted. And I don't think the women are genuinely attracted to those ones. I think they're attracted to the resources because they've been conditioned to think that that's all a man's value is what his bank account size is. So this is something on both men and women. I'm not just stating truths about men, which might be unflattering. And that's kind of what they're doing up here. Well, not that exactly, but up here in Canada, it seems like in them trying to take away freedom of speech, they're really just trying to make it so we can't use unflattering facts. This says you in weekend mode or not. Weekend, excuse me. But that's a good topic too, because the average of our workaday world just weakens us, all right? You got the week, you go through, you pump through with the toxic foods and caffeine, which, you know, everything in balance should be all right. But if you need drugs to go to work, that there's your flag right there. Something's wrong. Hello. Let's work wise instead of working hard. You know what I'm saying? But in your work week, you've got every sort of plot device initiated and activated to keep you seeking escapism. Be it the so-called medications that the so-called psychiatrists are prescribing you, or the so-called doctors. They're all just devil's advocate for bigger businesses who don't give a shit about us. They just want to make money on us while they destroy us. But whether you're brought to being weak from making it through the work week, or your weekend by the weekend, none of this is good for any of us. It just distorts us, and it pushes fake alphas up, like big gargantuan gorilla gut motherfuckers who are just essentially adult babies, and they get their way because of their size and because of the side of the fence of privilege they were born into. And the women choose them, which helps reinforce That's what they want. But then the women will simultaneously complain. But then it's like, hey, wait a minute, ladies, you can make money now. You don't have to settle for Mr. Gargantuan Gorilla Gut Homer Simpson motherfucker. But I'm not even going to call them Homer, because Homer Simpson has heart from The Simpsons. Despite his big gut, he has heart. Okay, he cares about his family. He might be a little distracted and whatnot, but you can tell in his character and demeanor that he always comes back to his heart, no matter how many mistakes he makes. I can't say the same for the average gargantuan gorilla gut motherfucker who is a so-called alpha. Just a big, fat, fucking spoiled brat. That's all the average of them are. Do you want to continue seeing that in society? Do you want society to be filled with men who look like gigantic babies? Up, work, home, TV, bed. It's all I gotta do to get her in the bed. Well, a big part of how we change that is for women to make different decisions. Quit choosing those ones. You know, if you're in a position where you can sustain yourself without the addition of a man, use that to free yourself from needing to attach to any sort of gargantuan gorilla gut motherfucker who hasn't grown emotionally since he was fucking 10. Has zero emotional regulatory control, and that influences you women because you're absorbing their energy when they're inside you. But you don't want to talk about truth. You don't want to accept accountability. You just want to say, it's not our fault. Women are better. You take away their freedom of speech, liberal women. Don't let them talk about unflattering facts. We're perfect. We are women. We have no fault, etc. And it's that exact mentality that's aiding them in destroying us. And I'm not saying to go against the women. I'm saying to go against the programming. That's what I'm meaning by talking about what I'm talking about. So it comes down to choice. I know the cost of living sucks, but if you're in a position where you can choose, then choose better, please. Also, get little sips of water into you every 30 minutes or so, everybody. That's another good thing to do. It'll really help your organs out, your pancreas, your liver, your kidneys, etc. So I didn't intend on going on this vlog. It just sort of came to me. But I think it was in inspiration from the lyrics I was writing. I haven't really fashioned a melody through this, but most of what I've been discussing ties into it. It's more so releasing the need to pass the buck and scapegoat our troubles. Just kind of see the magic of this reality for what it is and how negative experiences can work to empower and grow you, and aren't supposed to be something that you're supposed to attach to and be anchored into this reality with. And same as well with the positive experiences. You need both. And if we don't make the choices to go about our workaday world and society in general, if we don't make better choices to elevate and maybe flow with the planet and work in alignment with it, then you're just going to see the gargantuan gorilla guts get fatter and die younger, which maybe that might be a good thing. But you're going to see a lot of guys who actually are connected to their heart and have emotional regulatory aptitudes as well as talents that they've cultivated. You're going to continue to see us depopulated. And one example is in the mines. You can have cutesy wootsy, in tune with their feelings, in shape, and got a lot of good things going for them dudes, being thrown down mining holes by fat fucking spoiled masons. And they get away with it because of their network powers. Just like they get away with their gang stalking operations, their inheritance thefts, and so on and so forth. And so far. It's because of their powers. They're able to use the system against others. They can be both the perpetuator and, the savior. They create the problem, they offer the solution, and they get to play both sides of the fence. So where within I'll probably be winning some cases soon, I'm going to be tested with these motherfuckers acting like they're playing on my side, but really they're just trying to hide their hands and then stick them back in my pocket once I get what's mine, rightfully so. We need to honor the will of the dead and not assume that we have a better say in however they've decided to delegate their inheritance or their what's theirs. Like, you got to be really disconnected to do something like that, especially to someone who's already challenged by being neurodiverse in this world. Like, I'm willing to show up to whatever job it is and put in the effort, be consistent, and if it's allowed, be innovative. But because of the gang stalking operations I'm targeted with, they're always seeking to destabilize me and sabotage me no matter what I do. And I have a lot of various job experiences, and they haven't been able to sabotage all of them, but they've tried to not only sabotage me, and they've succeeded at that plenty of times, they've also tried to execute me, which they failed at because big puppet master in the sky said, not yet. I'll throw him out when I'm done with him. So I just accept that for what it is. I'm still wrestling with that idea that God is playing both sides of the fence. And I'm releasing the need to feel angry about that and more so just embrace the magic that is duality in and throughout this reality. Breathe with the trees and the wind. God's will always be done. Yes, we have some level of free will, but ultimately what God wants done will be done, though he gives us some space to play around and even turn against him, even get mad at him. Which I think me discussing on a public platform my anger toward God is going to be more encouraging and having spark conversations about God and bring people to God than sitting them there and trying to shame people and or trying to tell them, oh, Jesus, it's great. You know what? Jesus wasn't perfect. Jesus wasn't perfect. And that's not blasphemy, me saying that. He cursed the fig tree, they say. And I'm willing to say that that might be true. And that tells you right there that maybe Jesus in his earlier years was just putting on the facade of being balanced, kind of like the average New Age spiritualist, aka starseed. Some people told me, oh, you better not say anything about the star seeds because Saturn's in retrograde. And I said, well, no, they can get theirs too, because there's some star seeds who have been doing nothing but committing voyeurism and destabilization operations against me. So I will discuss that regardless of whose feathers it ruffles. And furthermore, to fear Saturn, I would have to fear death, and I do not fear death. I'm more in alignment with fearing reincarnation, but I'm also coming out of that and realizing the magic of it all and sort of just letting go, releasing and accepting. As far as calling anyone a starseed goes, because all are one and one are all throughout all time, dimension, space, universe, realm, and plane of existence and so on, everybody's a starseed. So it's almost redundant to speak on it, and it makes me think that it's more of a psychological operation exercised by, I guess, sorority Freemasons and or sorority Illuminati members. Oh, I see a monarch butterfly now. Cool. That one's like extra monarchy. I haven't really seen this specific design on a monarch butterfly, but maybe I'll see if I can get it. And then I'll probably read my lyrics and get off. Oh, just docked my house for frig's sakes. Where did that butterfly go? Where are you, buddy? Nope. There you are. Oh, it's as far as I can zoom. We're going to creep up on him like he's a king croc. And maybe I'll jam my thumb up his ball. Apparently Giant Tiger is getting Australian meat, and they say they have less chemicals. And I'm trying to think of, well, less doesn't always mean better. It depends on what kind of chemicals. Oh, there's the white butterfly. So I don't know. I'll have to investigate that. Hopefully it's good. And it makes me wonder, you know, if they can ship meat and stuff here from Australia, maybe there's other pathways that we could take that don't take so long to get from here to there. I've always been interested in checking out Australia, the land down under where the toilets flow in the opposite direction. But I have never really had enough resources to travel anywhere, so it's just a state of mind for now, a dream, if you will, something in between. Ooh, more butterflies. I think Funeral for a Friend is from Australia. I know AC/DC is. I know Heath Ledger is. I know that, what's that called? That Shadow Man sort of thing. I think that's from Australia too. If you know who the Shadow Man is, he's afraid of sunlight and stuff. And he likes to steal people's poop. Their poop. I recommend checking that out on YouTube or wherever. I'll read my lyrics in a second. Just gonna have a little nibble of a clova. You can eat this. Good for your kidneys, your diuretics, etc. But if you're going to eat any herbs from your lawn and or the woods around you, do your best to ensure that they do not have harmful pesticides on them. Oh, it seems like there's more people pulling up here. I'm gonna get off in a few moments. But yeah, make sure you know what you're putting in your body. Don't just guess. Even if it is something that's edible, consider that there could be harmful pesticides on it, and do your best to avoid those ones. And, you know, do your best to wash off the ones that come on our produce in the grocery store, that are on our produce, that are distributed through our grocery stores. I like to use baking soda and white vinegar to accomplish just that. I got 202 likes, right on. Thank you, everybody. This is Northern Light on TikTok, aka Paul Harris Light Striker on YouTube. I just thought I'd come out here and share my lyrics, but that ended up inspiring all of what I've discussed, and maybe I'll share it another time. I know that there are various forces that be who try to shadow ban my content and stuff because of some truths that I talk about or some theories, if you will. They're trying to control me, and I'm going to tell them right now that if you continue to interfere in God's plan, I won't have to do a single thing but watch God deal with you. And then I'm going to be like, see, I told you bitches not to fuck around, but you don't listen until something happens, and then you still don't listen. You use that as an excuse to do more. Do less, bitch. I call men and women bitch. I'm not sexist with it. I like the word. Sounds cool. Just watching the butterfly. So I don't know what kind of melody I'm going to use for these lyrics that I've wrote, and I'm not certain if they'll fit, but I wrote 2 pages so far and I feel like it's still not done. I formatted it in the way that I'm writing a letter to myself. It's called A Letter to Boo, and its subtitle is Archon Ascension. And I think the main theme I'm trying to get across here is try not to scapegoat others, whether they're archons or individuals or any other being, shape, form, whatever form of life might exist throughout anywhere, in any time, space, existence, universe, etc. And more so acknowledge all as being one, and all as serving their part in the grand illusion that is life. So save your anger if you want to release. If you want to be stuck in the reincarnation cycle and not have a chance on elevating away from here or unplugging from here, depending on your belief system, then by all means hang on to conflict. Refuse accountability. Refuse transparency. That's if you want to take that path. But for those who want to release themselves from merrily, 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 life is but a dream, then align with all that you feel and all that you see, and know that it all plays a part in everything, everywhere, anywhere. Everything has its purpose, even archons. So, a letter to Boo, formatted to what I've just discussed with you. Let's, so there was a rhythm. It was like, I was messing with a rhythm to this too. It's really like fast and like heavy metalish kind of. Really, it feels like something's approaching, like there's tension building. And every so often, as I'm working on building that tension, I use a 7th chord. Is it a 7th? Yeah, I use a root 5 7th plus some extended notes to kind of break that tension and then bring in the melody back. And this is my effort to simulate the contraction expansion cycle of going through the realization that all are one and one are all. And in order to release yourself, you do not have to follow the quotes of Dio in terms of the only way to do so being down. I just got the notice that we have detected inactivity during your current live. Complete the verification to continue your current live. It wants me to drag the puzzle piece over into a dog puzzle. I'm not going to. That's just spyware. I will take a picture and maybe put that in when I resubmit this video if I do. 32 seconds to go. It is 2:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, August 7th, 2026. So basically, in all of this, I'm just trying to encourage a re-realization and a call back to the self and to all of the self. To avoid scapegoating and blame shifting and cognitive dissonance and things of that nature. So maybe I'll post it with the rhythm later as I work the musical parts out, but let's just wing the melody while I've got 3 minutes and 58 seconds now remaining. This is a letter to Boo, Archon Ascension. I've waited for you for so long. This is a letter to myself. I thought I'd given up on this, my last and only wish. To align and counter the divine. For in time I've learned that we are the crime, created to follow fate, illustrated from the divine, destined in time, this is the crime, entertainment for the divine, done crying over the hands of time, tune in, tune high, incur opportunity cost to alter the divine. For I was wrong, the divine is the crime. Darker light, the fight from the blight is as important as the light. All are one, so stop with the shovel and gun. Realize, release, feel the need to have fun. The Most High is the only rabbit with a gun. Unravel the letter to this dream, release your desire for serenity. Read between these lines and come to align the only twist tangling us with the divine is what we hold near and dear. Struggle and strife, all that keep us bound to this ever recycling life. The archons arc on, zap. With the struggle and strife, plot devices from our life. The divine plans this, but we can overcome this crime, release from you and awaken from this illusion we call life. That's the end of that for now. I just started working on that before I started the stream. Well, I was doing the music part sooner, and I had a few words kind of brainstormed I was messing with, and then I sat down after I did some mobility work. And I also got some cold water on my legs, which is good to do after you wake up. It helps release the tension, aids blood flow, make you feel better, make you think better, remove the stagnation. Ooh, I've got some raspberries I'm going to eat. I can't. Here, I got 1 minute and 17 seconds. I can't really flip the camera because I keep getting that stupid puzzle. There we go. We got a raspberry. If I dig in this ground, I can also find parsnips. So I'm encouraging you, while I have 45 seconds left, to maybe take some time away from the distortion and chaos that society can push on us and detach from expectations and obligations. Go out, go with the flow. Tune in, tune out. Realize that that's what life can be all about. It just comes down to choice. We're now witching hour, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. Friday, August 7th, 2026. I've got 11 seconds left here. This is Northern Light on TikTok, aka Paul Harris Light Striker on YouTube.